Hey, in this session of Moneyball for HR, I really want to focus on some AI trends that are taking place right now. Hi, I'm Lou Adler, and I am the author and host for Moneyball for HR. I'm going to make this statement, and I'm going to prove it today, is that we've lost the war for talent, and we're spending money where we shouldn't, and we're going to continue to lose the war unless we do some dramatic changes. I'm going to also say we spent $2.5 trillion. Over the last 25 years, we're spending more than $100 billion a year on HR tech and recruiting services, and it's getting us nowhere. Moneyball can take us out of this pit. We got to learn how to play it, though, and that's what we're going to do today. I'll give you some basic rules for Moneyball for HR. Playing Moneyball involves two critical new metrics. The new employee experience is what we want to maximize, not the new candidate experience. But in the process of maximizing the new employee experience, we'll also take care of the candidates who applied for jobs. On top of that, we really want to focus on the predominant buyer, which is the hiring manager. So we're going to start tracking the hiring manager's leadership score. Those are our two new metrics for success. And AI can help us get there, but we have to use AI differently. So I want to kind of go back to 1998. I actually wrote my first book called Hire with Your Head at that point in time. And the subtitle was A Rational Way to Make a Gut Decision. And at that time, McKinsey had come out with a report that winning the war for talent was essential. It was a strategic asset. And then I think it was Newsweek came out with a few months after that saying, hey, with job boards, with applicant tracking systems, with the new internet tools we have, we're going to be able to win the war for talent. And now companies are going to bring in recruiting teams that used to be outside the company, paying for staffing firms. Search firms are going to go down. Candidate quality was going to go up. We're going to be able to do it faster. That was the promise in 1997. I thought it was hokum. I had a cartoonist draw this cartoon. I said, oh, it's not going to happen. You just can't have boring ads that are a can of worms, hard to find jobs that were boring to begin with, at best ill-defined lateral transfers. You're not going to attract better people. It was hard to find them anyway. Most managers weren't very good interviewers. Many recruiters were just box checkers. It took a long time to do it, a bunch of steps. And people were going to contend we're going to win the war for talent that way? No way. It just isn't going to happen. And have we really won the war for talent? I've asked this question for the last 25 years. We got a new shinier bucket, faster spigot, still a can of worms. So there's really nothing's changed in the last 25 years. We haven't won. We've lost the war for talent. $2.5 trillion later, what happened? $2.5 trillion later, what happened? I'm going to contend HR tech is playing the wrong game. Just total wrong game. I mean, let's take a look at this. I think this had to be Claude. I said, let's take a look at 4 functions for their risk appetite: HR, marketing, finance, and R&D. And let's look at it of risk appetite, mandate for innovation, external focus, creativity, value, and quantitative metrics. And rank each of those departments on those 5 metrics. And obviously the red is HR. Low on risk, low on mandate for innovation, low on external focus, low on creativity, low on quantitative metrics. And I got criticized for posting this chart and saying HR is playing the wrong game. They said, you can't criticize HR. You can't criticize HR tech. They're wonderful people. Well, they might be wonderful people, but they're playing the wrong game for hiring. And I want to play a different game. So then I went back to another study. I said, let's take a look at 25 years of investment in a bunch of different functions: HR and HR tech, manufacturing quality, logistics, healthcare, marketing effectiveness, engineering quality of products, sales revenue growth. And I said, let's get real data. We'll normalize the data. So some people spend $50 billion a year, some place 150, some pay $20 billion a year. But let's just normalize it to see if we're getting our money's worth. I don't think we're getting our money's worth. Here's HR, 5 to 10% improvement. Here's marketing, 100 or 200% improvement. I mean, we know in logistics, I think it's higher than that actually. It's over 200. I mean, we could order a product in the morning and it can be delivered in a couple hours to our house, which I find fascinating. So you can't tell me that HR is an advanced moving function and using technology properly. I mean, here's some more proof. This is the Gallup report that came out early August 2025. U.S. engagement, 33%, roughly, and it's been 30 to 35% over the last 25 years. That's fully engaged with their job. Actively disengaged, anywhere between 15 and 20%. 17.5% year after year after year. New hire turnover is worse than that. But let's take a look at overall satisfaction through the U.S. workforce. The same report as the Gallup report that came out in early August, half the people want to leave in the first year. So it's the 17% that are totally unengaged and about 35% of the rest of the people. And only the extremely satisfied people is about half of the 32% that are fully engaged. They just love their work. The other ones do it because they're responsible people. This is a pretty sad state of affairs. And HR's excuse is, it's not our fault, it's the hiring manager's fault. No, it's HR's fault. You're spending money on technology to do the wrong thing. And I think that's the problem. They won't take responsibility for their own leadership skills and leadership responsibility. So that's why we got to play Moneyball for HR. Here's Moneyball for HR. Let's be real frank. We've all met great people who don't get the jobs they deserve because they have a different mix of skills and experiences. Moneyball allows you to find those great people who've done comparable work, made comparable decisions, managed comparable teams, and dealt in comparable situations. But they probably don't have the right mix of experience and skills listed on the job description. In some way, they get promoted faster. They get stretched jobs sooner. They get awards. They get promoted. They get asked to be on different kind of project teams. And to exclude these remarkable people makes no sense. From this moment forward, you won't have to remove them, as long as you learn how to play Moneyball. Let's play it. Let's learn how to play it. So let me kind of do this chart. And I've presented this chart since 1990. I was a recruiter in 1990. I got invited to a couple of business meetings, Tech, Vistage, YPO, where I started meeting business executives. My next door neighbor actually helped me get these assignments, but nonetheless. And I started asking people at the beginning of our training sessions, and we train a lot of hiring managers in what we call performance-based hiring. So I ask hiring managers, tell me about the best people you've ever managed. And they're yelling out across the room. Sometimes they write it on a whiteboard, but it's always deliver results, make it happen, build good teams, take responsibility, don't make excuses. And I started in the workforce in 1968 as an engineer. It was the same thing then. When I became a manager a few years later, same thing. You want to hire people who can achieve results, exceed expectations, make it happen. Don't make excuses, just do it. They work well and collaborate with teams. If they're managers, they build good teams. They develop teams. Their people get promoted. And just the rock solid core management skills of planning, organizing, budgeting, getting it done. They do all those things. I call that a win-win hire. These are people whom you know, who you've worked with over the past. Then I say, okay, now let's look at your hiring process. These are people who you've actually managed and you've seen be successful. Let's look at your perfect candidates. Let's just look at them for a minute. Boy, step one, they have to have all the skills, experiences, and competencies and behaviors on your job description. We even give them tests and we knock them out if they don't have the right personality, not the right skills. We have all this AI is used to do this faster. But let me ask you this question. How many great people have you hired who have a different mix of skills and experience than what's on your job description? That's the false negatives. We're excluding good people for a dumb reason. Why would you want to do that? On the opposite side, a false positive. You got someone with all these skills and not any good. So we've made a double whammy mistake here by focusing on skills. It's work that they need to focus on. But let's take this double whammy mistake and even make it worse. We take all the people who have the perfect skill set and we have them negotiate the comp, negotiate the title, negotiate the location, negotiate interest in the job before they even know about the job. Think about it. We negotiate the terms of an offer before they even know what the offer is, what the job is. That makes no sense. So you can't tell me that HR people actually know what they're doing. That's idiotic. You don't negotiate stuff before you know what the deal is. Every one of those items can be negotiated. So when you're talking to people, you got to put those in a parking lot. Don't exclude people because of it. But recruiters say, oh, no, we don't want to waste time. No, you're wasting time doing this stuff. That's the waste of time, hiring the wrong people and seeing the wrong people, not negotiating an offer because the person sees it as a career move. And now we got people who've agreed to have the skill sets, agreed to all the terms of the offer, and we meet them. And you only hire people who have a good appearance. They're assertive, they're friendly, affable. and we make a judgment about their ability to do the work. So since 1990, I've been asking hiring managers this question: who would you rather hire? Someone who has all the skills on the left, or someone who can continually deliver the results? And year after year after year after year, they say we want to hire people who can deliver the results. Year after year after year. And yet, year after year after year, companies still look for perfect candidates, even despite the fact they're totally imperfect. The perfect candidates are on the right. The imperfect candidates and the imperfect process is on the left. And that's the process most companies use to automate with AI. They try to make bad decisions faster, to overcome candidates applying using AI. That is a zero-sum game. And let's take a look at it. And this is what I ask hiring managers. I mean, to some degree, that's a bit of marketing hype, what I say. It's still valid, but still marketing hype. But now let's get to the logic of it. How well do the factors on the left, perfect candidate, predict the factors on the right? Yeah, sometimes it does. And many times it doesn't. We've all seen great people who negotiate offers, who have a different mix of skills, who might be a little nervous in the interview, who turn out to be remarkable people. So it's not very good at predicting who's going to be great, and you can have all of that stuff and you're still not great. So it's less than 50-50. And we've seen it together. We hire people who don't perform. And yet the other area, which you never see, is people you didn't hire who could have performed. Since I've been a recruiter, I know about a lot of those people. I know about people a company didn't hire because I've placed them in another company that have been remarkable. And after you do that 10, 20, 30 years, you get to know that the stuff on the left is useless. How do you measure the stuff on the right? Well, you can measure it by playing Moneyball for HR. Think about it. When you hire people using the criteria on the left, you're giving them an ill-defined lateral transfer, and you're doing it in a transactional process. You're hiring people for gig work. And expect it. Some of them will be good, most of them won't be, and many of them will be underperforming, dissatisfied, and disengage and quit. Hiring the ones on the right, though, it's a two-way consultative process. These people require a career move, not a lateral transfer. But you can offset that using AI. More importantly, spend more time with fewer people. So your time to hire is about the same, but the results are remarkable. Even better, the post-hire results are you don't have to manage people who are underperformers because they're all above top performers. So you've saved time post-hire, but doing about the same amount of work pre-hire, but you're doing it the right way. That's the essence of Moneyball for HR. That's the essence of performance-based hiring. How you can use Moneyball for HR to measure quality of hire. Let me kind of take it from the perspective of conducting an interview. However, the first step in performance-based hiring is changing the rules of how we define the job. We don't use skills, experience, and competencies to define the work. When I talk to a hiring manager, I ask the hiring manager, what does this person need to do to be successful? Skills, experience, and competencies are not a job description. They're a person description. Let's put the person description in the parking lot and define the work. What does a person need to do to be successful? And it's always 5 or 6 critical performance objectives. Build a team, launch a new product, understand a problem, upgrade a system, a bunch of stuff that people need to do. Understand the current state of affairs in the first 60 days and rebuild a project plan to achieve success. Outcomes. So now when we've got this list of outcomes, we now have a way to measure a candidate's ability to do that work. So we conduct a performance-based interview, and we rank each of the factors predicting on-the-job success, and we total them up, and we get a number. That's our predicted quality of hire score. Basically, we go through the work history review first. Just see if there's a general fit. Is this candidate doing similar work in similar organizations using similar capabilities? That's the core of our process. If they are, we continue the interview. If they're not even in the game, obviously we're going to stop. But we're going to measure their primary technical skills, their experience in relationship to that job need. If they possess the achiever pattern, that means it looks like they're going to be in the top half, top third, top quartile of their peer group. They get assigned bigger projects, they get promoted faster. We then look at core competencies. technical competency, number one, their ability to manage comparable teams, their communication skills and soft skills, their ability to build and manage and collaborate with different functions, their problem-solving skills in relationship to that job, not generic. Hey, we got to launch this new product in 6 months. Normally it would take 9 months. How would you do it? Well, if the person's in a project management role, they have to understand how to do it. Well, that's what we're going to measure. Job-specific capability. But just as important, it turns out that all of these things on the left, work history, basic competency, and core competencies, they are relatively easy to measure. What's hard to measure are the fit factors. Is this candidate a true fit for that job in this situation? Can this candidate work with this manager's leadership and delegating style and coaching style? Do they fit with our company culture, the pace, how decisions are made, the politics? All of that's important. And then is this candidate intrinsically motivated to do the work that needs to be done? We're going to measure all of those factors. We're going to add them up, and we're going to say, hey, we can now predict quality of hire. Just as important, we can actually use the same scorecard to measure this person's ability on these skill sets we've just managed. So we can actually track quality of hire post-hire using exactly the stuff we predicted pre-hire. Now we've created a feedback loop. And when we've done that, we've eliminated most bad hires. We actually hire more top performers. We have a higher retention rate, and our success rate is close to 70, 80, 90%. It's remarkable. Let's get into it to see what it really matters, see how to really do it. But really, I got to say, it starts with Moneyball for HR. So let me kind of give you an idea of how we go this transition from a basic job description to a performance-based job description. This is one of our clients doing design work in the construction field. Typical before. Focus on what they have. Bachelor's and master's degree, 5 to 10 years in building institutional modeling and virtual design and construction tools, latest state-of-the-art tools, excellent organizational skills, vague responsibilities. I mean, we're going to use a lot of subjectivity to hire this person, but this is what companies have used year after year after year. We have a GPT, custom GPT. We just said, what does this person need to do to be successful? We can take any job in the world, any job, and instantly create a performance-based job description. And I'll give you a couple of examples of what we've done here. But when you look at it, that's not a job description. That's a person description. So we always ask the hiring manager, what does a person need to do to be successful? Sometimes they have to think about it. And that used to be hard. You had to pull it out of them. Some managers did it well. Some managers, they really struggled with it. Now our system, our GPT system, gives a rough outline right away. What about this? What does that look like? No, this is not right, but this is right. But we give them the entry point as a draft to discuss it. So we've made hiring managers understand the objectives of the job instantly. That's really what Moneyball is all about. In this case, it's leave for large-scale projects in the first 6 to 7 months. Reduce clashes, that's all the architectural design work works together. Achieve team utilization rates. Drive error reduction in the design by 30%. There are clear performance objectives. Complete the audit and deliver improvement roadmap in 30 to 60 days. Secure repeat business from 3 to 5 clients in 6 months. I mean, this is stuff that people need to do. But here's the secret sauce. It's what people do with what they have that makes them successful, not what they have. It's what people do with their skills, experience, and competencies that makes them successful, not their absolute level. Now, I want to take a different kind of perspective on the entire hiring process and focus on strategy. When you think about it, you could actually take the entire hiring process and put it into 4 core steps. Number 1 is the having step. This is where we build a job description that lists skills, experiences, and competencies. It's what a candidate must have. And most systems then look at a candidate's resume to see if there's a match there. If there is a match, they go to the second step, which is what a candidate gets on the start date. A title, a location, a compensation, and a set of circumstances, including the location. However, what's not typically discussed in any great detail is what the candidate's going to do. We actually define that up front. What does a person need to do to be successful? What's also not typically discussed is what a candidate can become. In fact, we negotiate the getting before the candidate even knows what they're going to do and what they can become, as long as they have the set of having skills. So the typical hiring process is left to right. A lot of detail about having, a lot of detail about getting, very, very, very little about doing, and almost none about becoming. And then when a candidate starts, they get, oh, I don't want this job. Oh, I don't want to do that work. That's not what was assessed. We assessed the wrong things. We assessed the having and the getting. That is a transactional, weed out the weak, surplus of talent hiring model. There's an assumption, hey, we got plenty of good candidates. Let's cherry pick them and not tell them what they're going to do, but they're desperate, so we'll hire them anyway. On the face of it, that is a dumb hiring process. And now we've added AI on top of it. We've made a dumb hiring process faster. That's super dumb. So my focus is, no, let's define the work first as a series of performance objectives. Find out candidates who want to do that work, and let's also source candidates who see their job as a career move. So now the emphasis is on doing and becoming. If they can do that work, they obviously have all the skills. The skills and the having becomes the variable, not the fixed criteria. And if the doing and becoming is great, everything on the getting side is negotiable. That's Moneyball for HR, but it starts with a different talent strategy. It's not a weed out the weak strategy. It's an attract the best strategy. We'll spend more time with fewer people. We'll focus on what they can do and what they can become. That's the game changer here. And it's just surprising to me that most HR people don't play that right game. And we can use AI to do the heavy lifting in the doing and becoming, and even in the sourcing. We're going to use agentic AI to go right to left, not left to right. That is a fundamental strategic game changer. Let's start getting into it right now. It starts with this concept called career zone analysis. We're now going to develop a sourcing strategy to find people who want to do the work we want and see it as what they can become if they're successful. So I want you to kind of think about this. This circle might not be to scale, represents the top 25% of the talent market for your specific open role. What's interesting is the slope of that curve. The slope on the left, it means the slope of the line, how it's accelerating. This slope is increasing. These people on the left are very satisfied. Over time, it declines a little bit. Sometimes it flattens out in the middle. And on the right side, it starts to decline. That defines 4 different types of candidates based on their motivation to leave the company and job satisfaction. Far left, high growth, high satisfaction, high engagement. These people are the super passive candidates. We call them zone 1 candidates. They're great candidates. They're very, very, very hard to find and pull out. You've got to be an exceptional recruiter, and you have to offer them an exceptional job. Zone 2 are the explorers. Their growth has started to decline, but not so bad that they're going to leave the company. They're just, hey, and if you reach out to them and ask this question, would you be open to explore a situation if it were clearly superior to what you're doing today? If you ask it that way, you'll get 100% of the people say yes. They're in the explorer zone. They want you to call them, but they're not going to tell anybody they're looking other than their friends and family. Then we get the tiptoers. They start declining. They tend not to promote the job, promote the idea that they're actively looking. They don't say actively looking for a job on their LinkedIn profile, but they will reach out to people they trust, a former coworker, a former boss, a recruiter they've worked with, and say, hey, I'm interested in leaving. But their growth has started to decline. Not until it really declines that they get very active and put their badge. I'm actively looking for a job. Now, most sources start looking for those people first. I'm going to look for zone 2 and 3 first. Or I look for zone 4 first. But interestingly enough, we did a big survey, 20,000 people LinkedIn about 2 years before the pandemic. 5% of the A-level talent, that's the top 25%, were very active. Only 5%, probably a little bit more now, probably 10%. 20% were tiptoers. That's probably about the same. Maybe 20-25% were tiptoers. And think about what they want to look for. When you look at the Gallup survey, that kind of confirms that. 50% were explorers. Probably that's a little bit less, more people a little bit more active, but that's still probably 40%. And 25% were super passive. That's probably still about the same today. And based on the Gallup surveys, I think that's probably true for at least the A-level talent, 25%. But if you want to go after the A-level talent that are super passive, you better give them an extraordinary move. Extraordinary. And what you're really going to do is accelerate the growth of that curve. If you're going after explorers, they're open to look, but you still better give them a significant career move. Tiptoers require a much better job because their pain of leaving is starting to increase. And very active candidates require a much better job. So this ought to fundamentally tells you, hey, we can develop a sourcing strategy based on this. So let me give you a sourcing tip. From this moment forward, ask candidates in the first few minutes of a conversation with them how long they've been looking. Oh, I just started. They're probably right there at the middle part. I'm not looking, but the message you sent to me sounded pretty good, so I decided I'd check it out. They're explorers. Oh, I just started a week or two ago. Tiptoers. Very active. Oh, I've been looking for 2 to 3 months. But let me say this. If you find a tiptoer in your sourcing strategy, and that person's been looking for more than 2 to 3 weeks, you got to say your sourcing strategy is a problem. Why didn't they find you? If you're finding candidates who have been looking for 3 or 4 months and it took you, or 3 to 4 weeks, and it took you that long to find them, you got a flaw in your sourcing strategy. On the other hand, if everyone says, well, I haven't really looked, they're at zone 2, maybe thinking of zone 3, you're in the game. This leads to what I would consider an overall sourcing strategy. I call it the 60-30-10 program. 60% of your effort should be on networking to get explorers and super passive, and maybe a few tiptoers. 30% on direct sourcing, but you're going to look for explorers and tiptoers. 10% on advertising, but I use advertising as a piece of collateral material. Very attractive piece. I don't publicize it. I drive people I direct source to the advertising to show them why the job represents a career move. This is career zone analysis. This is a game changer. This is the heart and soul of Moneyball for HR. And when you get someone on the phone, your job is to find out where they are in this curve, very active tiptoe explorer, and move the slope of that curve higher. Either reduce the decline or raise the increase. That's your sourcing strategy. That's a game changer, but it starts with understanding the job, understanding how to find people, how to find A-level talent, and then get in contact with them and then recruit them. We're going to get into the Moneyball aspects in a moment, but let that sit home. What I would urge you to do right now is think about an open job you've got, figure out where they probably are in that component, and see what you can do to develop a sourcing strategy to find those people. Now, once you know where your person is strategically, and I would say for most recruiters, the bulk of your effort should be between explorers and tiptoers. That's why I recommend a 60-30-10 sourcing plan. And the idea is we're going to shift the person wherever, once we find out where the person is on his or her curve, how active they are and why they're active. Our goal is to say, hey, we're going to give you a better job to just shift the person somewhere to the left. That's our sourcing strategy. The bigger point, though, is if someone's very active and very good, you've got to move immediately. If someone's a tiptoer, you have some time, but you don't have a lot of time because they're starting to look. And if they're an explorer, you might think you have lots of time, but I guarantee as soon as they decide they're interested in your job, they're going to start looking for another one. So if you decide to hire this person 2 to 3, 4 weeks from now, they'll probably have a competitive offer or counter offer. That's why I kind of want to flip the sourcing switch. Forget job postings. It's a 60-30-10 mix. 60% on proactive generating referrals, 30% on direct sourcing. But we're going to do direct sourcing a little bit different way. As far as I'm concerned, a part of the direct sourcing is we're going to find people who can give us referrals as well as find great candidates. And 10% on a great compelling posting, but we're going to use it as part of a marketing collateral campaign, not as the primary source of finding candidates. So we're going to really flip the switch to high-touch networking. And when you really think about it, research shows this time after time after time that internal mobility has got a great success rate, 92%. I mean, even if you put someone in a job they're not exactly perfect for, you know they're not exactly perfect for, but you got perfect data to do it. Employee referrals are pretty good if they're reputation backed. Why do you think this person's a good person for this job? Would you give this person a referral based on that? If you qualify them that way, totally different than just getting a random referral. Obviously, alumni and rehires are pretty good too, still 85%. Executive search, high-touch relationship building, and direct sourcing in a slightly different way. Too many people use direct sourcing to find perfect candidates, and then hopefully they're actively looking, they just didn't see your post. That's got maybe 55%. But if you use it to build a pipeline, get referrals, nurture these people, keep them active in your pipeline, that's a different thing. You're still building a relationship with those people. So the idea is, and this is my point of view, when you first take an assignment, you ask the hiring manager, what does this person need to do to be successful? You get a list of 5 or 6 key performance objectives and 1 or 2 critical subtasks. What do they have to do in the first 30, 60, 90 days? What's the critical thing they got to get done in the first 3 to 4 months? Now I know what the job is. Too many recruiters at this point in time do something that I think is inappropriate. They start doing Boolean search. No, I think you should say, who knows my candidate? How can I get a great referral for this person? That's a different mindset. That's what I mean, flipping the sourcing switch. Focus on getting referrals. Spend most of your time getting referrals. Yes, you're going to find people direct sourcing if you don't know anybody else. But once you connect with these people, you're going to start building that network with those people if they're not perfect for the job. So think sourcing as a networking opportunity, not as a finding candidates who are ready to move now opportunity. That's a transactional mindset. We're going to go to a win-win hiring mindset. We're going to offer people career moves. Let's dig this a little bit deeper. So I asked our chat GPT, took a job, and said, hey, build a network map for me. Who would know this person? There's my target role. It's got colleagues, it got peers, you got managers and leaders this person would have reported to. You got direct reports that the person's a manager. You got external partners, customers, vendors. You got people in other departments would have worked with this person. I love project managers because they work with everybody. So if this person's on a project, I'm going to connect with project managers. In fact, when I was a recruiter, I became a member of the project management institution. Institute is not called that. I'm not positive what it's called, but nonetheless, that's a great way to begin networking. I mean, I knew the people and I got referrals from lots of people. So to me, that's a critical link. So I'm going to make the statement as networking rules. That's got to be the key. That's going to be the differentiator. That's going to protect recruiters in the future. You combine networking with Moneyball for HR, you're going to be in the game, and you're going to be in the game for a long period of time, especially if you use AI to do it. So I'm doing one project with somebody in the construction industry. They're looking for a VDC studio manager. That's virtual design and construction. These are people who build virtual designs for very complicated business systems, the system infrastructure, the city infrastructure, the plumbing infrastructure, all that kind of stuff. So I just said, thinking with this mindset of who knows my candidate, came up with suggested titles. These aren't titles for the job. These are titles of people who could get me a referral. BIM manager, which has to do with building modeling in the construction industry. Construction technology manager, senior estimator, superintendent. I mean, all these kinds of things. Who works with these people on a day-to-day basis? Architects, obviously. And then they came up with companies who might know these people. So now I got to start looking on LinkedIn for people who can get me referrals. A lot easier to get referrals. Then I can connect with those people on LinkedIn. And if they're in my company, I just don't happen to know them, they'll instantly open up their LinkedIn connections to me if they're not already open. And if I have LinkedIn Recruiter, you can search on those. They're your first degree connections, and ask people, who do you know? And here's the network map that our ChatGPT created for that specific job. And then I can actually dig deep. What I also did is I used Agent to help me find referrals. I'm not sure that LinkedIn's going to allow it. But in this case, I said, okay, I want to see if I can find some people I can network with whom I'm connected to on LinkedIn, and I'm using LinkedIn Recruiter. And in this case, ChatGPT's agent opened up my LinkedIn Recruiter account. I had to give it permission to do it and started searching. When I actually started searching for candidates directly, it turned it off. But when I said I'm just looking for referrals, it let me do that. And I suspect it would also do that in Sales Navigator. I say I'm looking for clients to do this job. But in my own mind as a recruiter, I was actually looking for referrals. And then I can search on those connections. But you just kind of see this. This came out a couple of weeks ago. A ChatGPT agent, it takes over your browser and starts doing work for you. You can imagine it can do all of this stuff for you. You can probably create, hey, here's my job. Here's what I need. Here's the achiever terms. Find candidates on the open web. Find referrals for me. Find people who might know these people. Pretty cool. This is what's really happening. But in my mind, networking is what wins. But at the core of networking, at the core of it, and this is critical, because you talk to any of these people, if you don't know the job, you're just a gatekeeper. You're going to lose total credibility. So you as a recruiter have to know the job, have to know the hiring manager, have to know the industry, have to know the company, have to know the trends, have to understand the opportunity. That's what makes this a game changer. These tools are great, but they're not used for transactional processing. They're used for creating long-term win-win hiring outcomes. That's the name of the game. So let's kind of talk about this as we end this session. I want to fish where the big fish hang out. That's a critical step. And what's a big fish? In my mind, a big fish can do the work. If he or she can't do the work, they're not qualified. And I asked the hiring manager, what does this person need to do to be successful? And it's a list of performance objectives. Then I asked the hiring manager, would you see someone who can do this work and been recognized for it, but doesn't have the exact mix of skills and experiences on the job description? That's a critical step to get hiring managers to focus on the work, not the skills or not the personality. If the person has the achiever pattern, meaning he or she's been recognized for doing this, spoke at a conference, won an award, wrote a white paper, got something they've done on GitHub, but recognized for doing this outside of their company, that's pretty cool. Or getting promoted rapidly or assigned stretch jobs. I'm looking for that. AI can help you find these big fish. On the other half, though, we have a very discriminating buyer. We're looking for people in the top half of the top quartile. They're not going to move. They're going to be on the left side of that career zone curve. Satisfied, maybe starting less satisfied, but they need a clear career move. So when you do your sourcing, you got to find people who would see the job as a career move. So if you're looking for a director, you might look for a senior manager. You might look for someone with a big company wants to go to a small company, make a bigger impact. But you got to understand that as part of the pre-qualification process. You got to pre-qualify who you talk to. I'll spend more time with fewer people, but they got to be the right people. And recognize they're in the top quartile. They're going to get counteroffers. They're going to be more diverse. They're going to be more discriminating. They're going to have a different mix of skills and experiences. They're going to be more passive. Yeah, it's hard work, but that's the future. Everything that's easy work, AI is going to do. So recruiters do the hard work and to make it happen. You have to have great messaging. You have to be great at networking. And when you call someone up, you have to ask this question. Would you be open to explore a situation if it were clearly superior to what you're doing today? Then you have to prove it. You have to overcome objections. I'm not looking. I'm happy where I am. What's the money? All of those things have to be handled. We'll get into that in a few moments here, but AI can do a lot of that heavy lifting. But the recruiter's got to orchestrate this entire process throughout the entire ecosystem of the hiring. Candidates, advisors, friends, family, spouse, hiring manager, other members on the hiring team. But if you bring the evidence to the table, you've got a shot at making more effective placements with stronger talent. We're going to spend more time with fewer people. And the people we're going to spend time with are big fish. In my mind, a big fish is someone who can do the work. We call them semifinalists. And they would see the job as a clear career move. Alternatively, a big fish could be someone who can get us referral to someone like that. So that's really a lot of what we need to do here. They're semifinalists. When you just start out playing Moneyball, you probably need 15 to 20 semifinalists. Probably only 8 to 10 will call you up if you send out a compelling message. 2 or 3 of those will be really people you would send to the hiring manager. But 3 or 4 will give you other referrals. So you always have 6 to 8 people. When you really get good at playing Moneyball, you only need 8 to 10 semifinalists at the start from a direct sourcing standpoint. 2 or 3 will be perfect for your job because you'll do a better job of qualifying them. And the other 3 or 4 will give you 2 or 3 referrals. So you always have 8 to 10 people to choose from. That's a different kind of hiring game. spend more time with fewer people. It doesn't take any longer to hire great people. But now I want to kind of change the direction. I believe that when HR leaders and talent leaders started using AI, they used it for the wrong reasons. It was all about efficiency metrics. Let's do what we're now doing and let's do it faster. Let's use agentic AI to screen candidates faster. Let's use AI to filter resumes faster. To me, that's a non-starter. The real target is a candidate who is ultimately successful on the job. We call that win-win hiring. And their experience, not only pre-hire but post-hire, has to be extraordinary. But we focus on a great candidate experience pre-hire. And then we hire these people who thought it was great. The job sucks. I mean, what's the point of that? Let's narrow our focus to great people, semifinalists. Let's make the experience great for them. And we're able to do that. It's a high-touch experience because we're not dealing with everybody. We don't have to spend all our time with people who we shouldn't have attracted to begin with. We give people an extraordinary experience pre-hire. We make it a career move for them. We spend a lot of time with them. Let's say this, the hiring manager and the hiring team spends a lot of time with them. The candidate says, oh, this has been a great experience. They take the job because they like it. They like the job. They like the people. And they're successful and they're satisfied throughout the first year. That's a pretty cool experience. Hiring manager is the other part we should measure. How well does this hiring manager attract and hire and develop good people? We call that the manager leadership skill. If they can't hire good people, and we as recruiters are just sending them more and more candidates, and they're not the best candidates in the world, and even if they are the best candidates, they're disappointed once they get the job, the whole process has failed. So we're changing the metrics. We're going to focus on metrics that matter. Hiring manager success rate, we call that the MLS, manager leadership skill, and a new employee experience. So it's a different kind of a mindset. This is where I'm going to contend agentic AI has to go right to left, not left to right. By emphasizing what people can do and become, those become our starting points, not what they have or what they get. If they can do the work, they obviously have the right mix of skills. They have the right having. And if they see the job as a career move, the getting will be negotiated. We just have to deliver on the promise. That's an attract the best model, right to left versus left to right. That's been the whole purpose of Moneyball. It now allows you to do it. In the olden days, like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, it was hard to do because defining the work took time. Now you can do a lot of the heavy lifting with AI. It's a different game. New employee experience is what we're going to hire. Manager leadership skills is what we're going to maximize. We're going to focus on making the hiring manager great. We're going to get rid of a lot of this stuff in applicant tracking systems. Let's think about it. If only 1% to 2% of the people actually get seen and less than 1% of the people who apply get hired, we've basically said we got to spend 98% of our time managing the other people. And our metrics are all around those other 98%. That's a lot of overhead. It's a waste of money. I'm going to say, let's kill that overhead. Let's spend the time on the right people. We've got to redesign our applicant tracking systems. We've got to redefine our software systems. We've got to manage the hiring manager, give that person a great experience, and give the candidates we do focus on. Fewer candidates, but give them all a great experience. Different game. That's Moneyball for HR. Now, as I end this session, I want to go back a lot of years. I'm going to say it's 62 years to my sophomore year in high school. Had to be 1962, literature class, and it was Robert Frost's poem, The Road Less Traveled. And I listened to that, and it kind of hit me pretty hard in a very positive way. And the end of the poem is this quote: "Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference." Well, I'm going to say when I was a sophomore, that stuck with me. And I said, I'm going to always take the road less traveled by. And I'm going to suggest you in HR, you in recruiting, should take the road less traveled by. The road to efficiency is how people are using AI. I think it's the wrong road. AI has a strategic advantage. It can change the direction of a company. It's transformative. And I think too many people in HR are using it for a transactional and tactical reasons, when it can be used for a strategic and a transformative reason. And I believe Moneyball is the way to do that. So let me summarize this program, but basically make the statement that the future of recruiting will be high touch. We're going to use AI to make that high touch work more efficiently and more effectively. I want to give you a few tools you can take home with you today, play with, actually try it out. But I want to first give you the rules for Moneyball for HR. Every month we have a Moneyball workshop. I hope you can attend it. I'll give you some information in a moment on how to access that. But first off, Moneyball redefined the game. No more skills. We're focused on performance and results. We change the scouting. We're going to look for people who are semifinalists. We're going to offer them a career move. We're going to have hiring managers have an exploratory conversation with them to see if the job represents a career move. We're going to build a farm team. So we're going to use direct sourcing to build a deep network of potential candidates and referral agents. Live action is every single meeting will be a 30-minute exploratory meeting with the hiring manager. We're going to negotiate early. We're going to tell candidates, hey, if the job represents a career move, would you at least be willing to go to the next step? Focus on the opportunity, not the compensation package. We have a detailed full course interview that we really dig into the details. Can this candidate do this work? Do they have the achiever pattern? Will they fit with the hiring manager? Will they fit with the company? We call that the hiring formula for success. Ability to do the work in relationship to fit drives motivation. And because motivation is so important, we raise it to an exponential power. And that formula is the key to hiring great people. They're motivated to excel. We can use the interview in AI to review all of the data to see if it's accurate and predict quality of hire. And we want candidates to accept offers based on the career growth opportunity. And then we have to deliver on the promise. And then we use feedback to keep on delivering. That's how we achieve a win-win hiring outcome at scale. Let me kind of end this program with some tools. We're going to give you a talent scorecard you look at that accurately measures quality of hire. We're going to give you a sample of a performance-based job description, but you can go into any AI and just ask them to create one for you. It'll do a pretty good job. I think our system does a little bit better, but AI knows a lot about performance-based hiring. We also have a 24/7 recruiter hotline. I'll tell you about that in a moment. And we're going to give you the full Moneyball for HR rulebook. Reach out if you want a demo of any of this stuff. info@performance-based hiring. Here's our tool set. Moneyball using performance-based hiring. We'll give you the whole system. We'll give you a sample job description, interview forms, the rule book, and the hotline. Here's how you access that. hiring.tips/moneyball_basics. And you'll get an opportunity to talk to our 24/7 hotline, Digital Lou. I wish you folks the best of luck as you go out and hire great people every time. You'll do it with performance-based hiring as the methodology. You'll do it with the win-win hiring outcome as your North Star, where the candidate says, I'm so glad I took this job on the first year anniversary date. And the hiring manager says, I'm so glad I hired the person. All the tools are here to make that happen. AI can be transformative. Use it for that kind of strategic purpose, and you will have a job. I'm not going to say for life because I don't know what's happening here, but you'll certainly be able to ensure that you're orchestrating the entire hiring process in the right way. Good luck hiring.